Very good afternoon to every single one of you. It's a really pleasure, great honor to be here. This is my first time in Moscow, never been here before, and I'm totally overwhelmed. I've been in the city for about 6 hours now, and I just keep looking at places like, am I in a movie? This is so cool. What I'm going to tell you is a story about, sorry? A very old traditional historical film that's sort of like epic drama. Yeah. About epic dramas. I'm going to tell you an epic drama story about an application of blockchain technology in logistics industry and in supply chain management in particular. And I'm going to start off by finding the correct button in the clicker. Here we go. First, a few words about where I come from, what is my background and context for this application. I come from city of Kouvola, and we are located in southeast of Finland. It was very easy for me to come here, basically a night train, 12-hour train ride, when I was in the center of the city. What we are about in Kouvola is we are about industrial process industry, mainly doing with processing wood into cellulose. We used to do a lot more paper, but since the iPad came out, people really don't use so much paper anymore. So we are doing just raw cellulose now, which is selling like hotcakes at the moment. What we are also doing is logistics. We are the railroad logistics capital of Finland. Every main line runs through our city, and we host in a wider region some 500 companies in different positions and in different roles in supply chains and logistics. This is including maritime logistics, railroad, and trucking logistics. The only thing we are not doing is air freight. That's for the bigger airport cities to worry about. We are part of the European transport network. It's mainly, you can barely see the map and some colorful lines in it. It's mainly to do with railroad connections between major logistics hubs in Europe, in different countries. We are the northernmost top-level node in that logistics network. So we are the northeast corridor you can do when you want to reach middle China. We have a new route opened up that goes through Moscow, through Kazakhstan, through the pass of Kyrgyz, and into Shenzhen, China. And we are just opening it up. So we have a lot of interest in these regions and these geographical areas. As for my host company, Kouvola Innovation, we are a very typical Finnish non-profit company. We are owned 100% by the city of Kouvola, and we are a registered non-profit. So our only function is to help companies in our region to grow in any way we can. From idea, financing, founding, growing markets, branching concepts, any part of a business's life cycle, we try to help our region's companies. And that's our function. That's what we do. So I stress our non-profit status. We are kind of like governmental function, except we are not. About our solution, let's start with the problem. I like to lead with this quote. It kind of nails down the moment 2 years back when we started to think on logistics business and IoT ecosystem. What could be done in terms of IoT and logistics? At the time, I was reading an article on blockchain and IoT, a white paper written up by some people in IBM USA. It was called Device Democracy. And it was all about different kinds of use scenarios, use cases, where IoT environments or ecosystems, and 2 years ago, this very new technology no one had ever heard about called blockchain, how these two concepts could interact. And in terms of supply chain business and logistics, the connection there, it was very much hidden. There was no obvious red line you could draw across two dots. The problem we identified had to do with the amount of knowledge or amount of data that companies in supply chain share with each other, which is still at the moment almost precisely zero. The cargo is moving extremely efficiently, but the information about the cargo is not moving almost at all. If you think about your typical supply chain, it's, as we understand them now, it's a linear construct. It starts, let's say, from the northern Sweden, it moves across Europe, and it ends somewhere in southern Italy. On that linear route, there are anything between 30 and 50 changes of custody in the cargo when different companies transport containers, sometimes by sea, sometimes by rail, sometimes by trucks. And each company is doing their own bit of this long supply chain. So they are transporting the containers, let's say, from northern Sweden to Denmark, from Denmark maybe to Germany, from Germany on, someone else takes care of it. And all these companies have to work in sync in order for the cargo to move efficiently. But they really don't do that because they are not sharing at all the information about what they are doing. They are, of course, using their own database systems, some sort of information management or operational management system to control and optimize their own operations. But that data is siloed within the company. When the custody of the cargo moves to the next company in the supply chain, they get almost no notice on this event starting to happen. This causes every company downstream the supply chain to be in constant alert. They must be constantly active, calling upstream. When is the cargo coming? When are our guys with the forklifts? When are they supposed to be ready? When do I tell them that go out in the field and wait for the cargo? It's coming today at noon, or maybe tomorrow. Oh no, maybe. Not at all. Go home, come back on Sunday afternoon. This happens every day with every company in supply chain business. They are all wasting their resources by putting resources on hold, waiting for things to happen that may or may not happen. That was the problem that is shared by every company. No one has really done anything to solve this problem. It's basically, if you look at it from the ICT point of view, it's partial optimization on a network level. That's good for one company, but it's bad for the network. Simply put, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a blockchain, a permissioned blockchain that every company in the supply chain network can connect into and share their bit of information, what they are doing with the cargo at the moment. And every other company who is part of this blockchain can access that information when it has something to do with that particular company's operations at any given moment. So basically you give out your bit of information and you receive in exchange every other company's information when it pertains to you. So this level of sharing has never happened before. What we are doing is we are trying to introduce what is called a total visibility scenario, where before you operate almost completely blind as part of the supply chain network, and all of a sudden someone turns all the lights on. Suddenly you can see everything that has meaning to your business. We are predicting that this level of sharing can incur cost savings of anything starting up from 400-500 million euros annually, and that's just between a few dozen companies. When you involve more actors to the blockchain, the cost efficiency ratio goes up exponentially, because what we are ultimately dealing with here is the network effect. The more users you have, the more useful the solution is for everyone. What happened? We lost connection to the mothership. Apologies. And he looks meaningfully to the dark window. Anytime. Now we are seeing something. There we go. Thank you. Where was I? Here. We are basically trying to position our blockchain as the nervous system that will connect the different fingers and toes and limbs and eyes and ears of the European transport network together, so it can act as a single organism, share information efficiently, and create added value to everyone from the network level down. So individual companies were never our main point of focus when we were developing this concept. We started from the network level, and it has been a long way. I can tell you, we've been working on this concept for 2 years, and we got the funding to create a proof of concept just last September. We got funded by European Union, one of its development funds. We are running a proof of concept pilot project between 4 countries, Finland, Sweden, Estonia, and Latvia. And we are currently some 15 people in these 4 countries connecting with companies, creating an academic research network, and developing the software, the actual operational logic on top of the blockchain that will hopefully one day make all this happen. We are working on 2 corridors, Scandinavia Mediterranean and North Sea Baltic, which basically cover the very Northern Europe area of the transport network. This is my favorite example on what we can achieve. Cargo trains on average have the speed of 10 kilometers per hour in the Trans-European network. And this is due mostly to the fact that piece of cargo has always +1 priority when it comes to passenger traffic. So every time a passenger train is late, it has wide access. It always goes first. And every piece of cargo on rails will stop. So average speed of 10 kilometers per hour means that cargo trains are constantly accelerating and decelerating all the time. And they never get to full speed. Of course, there are instances when they can do the whole leg full speed, but these are extremely rare. In any given year, on the network level, the average speed is something between 10 and 15 kilometers an hour. Now, if our blockchain can incur a change to this average speed of, let's say, +3 kilometers on the network level, this will mean savings in cost efficiency starting from, again, few hundred million euros all the way to the range of billions of euros, because the change affects every operator who is part of the network. An average speed change on continental level, 1 kilometer, is a huge change. The total visibility scenario is something that is being sought after for a very long time. since the birth of electronic document interfaces, which were sprung about in Singapore in the early 80s, they were meant to replace fax machines, which was the logistics business high-tech solution. You can send a fax. That was so cool. Until probably there was a room full of fax machines and there was no more room for people to deliver faxes from one machine to another. So they had to develop electronic systems that can exchange digital data directly. For the past 30 years, total visibility scenario has been sought after, but it has been impossible just because the data has always been siloed within companies. There hasn't been a distributed solution before blockchain came into play. To underline a point, everyone sees the information relevant to their foreseeable operations, nothing more. To have a God's eye view on every transaction happening on continental level would be just as bad as having no information at all, because the information overflow would kill you. You couldn't decipher any meaning from the information. You only need a subset of the data. And a good definition of meaningful subset is if somebody is paying you to do something, you get all the relevant data to that operation, not your neighbor's operation. We have another scenario we are going to explore later on in the project. We are funded for 3 years, so we are going to release our results sometime in 2019. Now, when I say DAO, I mean in its original meaning, digital autonomous organization or organism. The logic goes like this. Once you have information you can trust, the blockchain related or derived information, you can start creating smart contracts on top of it. In other words, you can automate some of your business processes. The ultimate form of automating an intermodal sea container is to give it limited decision-making capabilities. So a complex collection of smart containers, which form, in essence, a virtual agent that represents a container in the field, can create a scenario where I can give the container a destination, some money, and a time frame. You are now in northern Sweden. Here's 1,000 euros. You need to be in southern Italy in 14 days. Go. And the container or the virtual agent that is representing the container will start searching for service providers along the way. It will give them tenders. The companies will answer tenders. According to a given set of parameters, the container will choose its next leg of journey. Let's say from the harbor to the cargo marshalling yard of a commercial train station. Company will come, truck will pick it up, drop it there, contract completed, payment initiated. Then the container will buy its next leg on the railroad, let's say somewhere in Berlin. Then it changes a train, it makes another tender, someone else comes and picks it up. This repeats until it has reached its destination. All the payments are automated. All the tendering is automated. That we are basically trying to use a very bad analogy, we are trying to turn a physical container into an IP packet that travels into network, always searching for the optimal route by its given parameters. That's a scenario we're going to start touching on sometime late 2018. At the moment, we are preparing our first tech trial in northern Estonia. We are going to join about 10 companies together. So we are still in very early stages. There's a lot to do with our basic tech before we can start exploring these Star Trek scenarios. But we're going to do something with them, hopefully, in the duration of the project. We are going to use artificial intelligence approaches. The logic goes like this. Once we connect, let's say, 500 logistics companies into the same blockchain, sharing information, the data starts to accumulate extremely rapidly. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of transactions recorded in the blockchain on a yearly basis. Let's say one commercial mid-sized port generates some 500,000 messages a year internally. If you put 500 companies around that port in the same blockchain, we are talking an insane amount of messaging data. You really can't start to make sense of that given any human-driven, even high-end analytical software. You really need an artificial intelligence approach. So probably in a follow-up project, we've applied funding for a follow-up already before we have practically started our first one. But that's how the public funding applications go. We're going to get funding for an AI-related project. We are basically going to train an artificial intelligence to monitor a continent-wide network of logistics operators and their messaging traffic and act as an almost regulatory or business intelligence authority on that data. This is going to happen in our timeline, hopefully sometime in late 2018. We're going to start experimenting with these. Since we have a very warm and cozy relationship with IBM USA, it's a safe bet at the moment that we're probably going to use Watson or Bluemix Watson architecture or framework to do that. We'll see. An AI is an AI, basically. You just train it enough so it starts to give meaningful answers to you. At the moment in logistics, there have been some serious development in terms of blockchain. 2 years ago when we started, we were the only one in this space, commercial space. A year later, there were like 5 startups. Now, 2 years later, there are dozens of startups doing blockchain, logistics, supply chain solutions. The aspects and points of view vary. Some are doing very low-level small solutions. Some are aiming for wide-use general solutions. We are still, as far as I know, the only one who is doing cargo tracking solution on the network level. It's been done in China. They used a quality control use scenario where they tracked the quality of pork meat in a blockchain as it was being transported along mainland China. There's been a cotton shipment that was sent from southern USA to China, and they handled all the trade finances with blockchain. So that was like a fintech experiment on trade finance logistics. The latest news, roughly 2 months ago, IBM and Maersk, which is the biggest shipping operator in the world, they announced collaboration where they are doing a complete transformation of Maersk internal systems. There are probably hundreds of different kinds of databases and operational management systems. They're going to join them together with the use of blockchain application. That's almost the same thing we are doing. They are doing it internally. What we are trying to do is we are trying to connect all the SMEs together. So it's kind of same approach, but a different context. What can be said about blockchain and logistics or supply chains in the future is it's going to be huge. By now, it is certain and obvious to all the big key players that blockchain will disrupt logistics industry very seriously. It's going to be a total change. This will radiate very quickly to the foundations of business processes and the old business-making paradigms that have been in place for the past 30 or 40 years. There's going to be a huge revolution. And the blockchain will be the key enabling technology doing that. But in the end, it's important to remember that blockchain is just the enabling technology. It is something that can catalyze the change, but the change will take place in the business field, in the business processes, and in the business paradigms. So blockchain is like the huge lever you can use to make large objects to roll forward, but the lever stays in place, and it's the object that starts rolling. It's an important distinction to make. We have a website, smartlock.kino.5. We have some basic information about our project and progress there, or at least that's what I've been telling people for the past 6 months. I've been really lousy at updating it. I promise to do better, but you can start following our progress from that address. I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's actually really awesome, and for me personally, it's extremely interesting because I've done a lot of businesses in my life, and one of them involved shipping containers from Estonia to Africa and a few other countries with aviation gasoline. So there's a lot of tracking problems, containers being lost, all kinds of things, and also figuring out what's the best cost to do it. But then again, like, how do you manage all the paperwork and all that stuff? Container business is still, people there are extremely slow. Mostly, they put like papers and they like stick it to the container, and then each container has a passport with paper and stuff like that. How are you dealing with all that crap? Because I couldn't.
I'm going to stay the hell out of that shtick for a while. What I'm trying to do is to make efficient information exchange possible through blockchain. When it comes to automated document handling, not my cup of tea. I'm not going to take any action on that yet. This is an elephant, and I have to start chopping it up piece by piece. So first, the very foundation, the infrastructure has to be in place. When I have that on top of it, I can start developing document handling mechanics and techniques. But time for that comes later, I'm afraid.
Yeah, because I feel it's still, a merger of the two, right? That will make it really work, right? You need to convince all the suppliers, all the people driving, everybody.
Exactly. About blockchain, the key added value, what it brings into any business is trust. It can generate certain limited kind of trust where trust wasn't before. And that's the leverage. When you introduce added trust, you can get added automation. And that's, in my mind, is how you get the ball rolling.
And I think you actually also face a lot of challenges in that, because in that industry, people don't want that trust sometimes.
Exactly.
They want the margins to stay, 4 layers of margins on the transportation of the container to still be there.
Exactly. You are completely correct. Logistics business in general is extremely conservative. And the current business mechanisms actually favor companies who are not sharing. They are generating value for their customers by keeping secrets from other companies. And I'm afraid I'm going to change that. So that's the first initial wave of the disruption. That's going to hurt some, but it's also going to be a huge force multiplier to the companies who come aboard in early stage and in a smart way.
Awesome, thank you. I'm really happy you came and you talked about this, because this is something I've been looking forward to, because a lot of time when we talk about blockchain, we only talk about cryptocurrencies, exchanges, and maybe a few applications that are talking about economy or something like that, or politics, things like that. They're very visible, but very rarely I see an actual application that is extremely applicable to physical objects and physical life. And that's, I think, what excites me the most in blockchain, like applications that are cross-industry, something completely new.
Exactly.
Cool. Hey, let's see if the audience has some questions for you. Gentleman over there, the microphone is coming your way.
What is the price of this project?
The price of the project?
Yes, the price of the project.
If you mean the budget we are running with, we applied and we were granted 2.4 million euros from the European Union and that's going to be for the 3 years of the project and divided amongst 6 partners. Now, 2.4 million sounds like a nice chunk of money until you realize that you only have 2 years and you only have like 15 people to do all this work. So it's really a shoestring budget. We are struggling. We are doing the bare minimum, and I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. We'll see.
Okay. Hopefully it will be. It sounds like fun. There's one there. Yeah. Let me go to this side.
Hello. Yeah. Do you have a community, or is there like other cryptocurrencies and stuff? They have like a large community behind them. Do you have that as well?
We don't have a community behind our project as such as of yet. There's been a lot of interest in university students across Europe. There's currently about, 15 or 20 postgrad and graduate students who are contributing to our research work package. But as a community, like you normally find behind some cryptocurrency project, no. This is far too unsexy and conservative to create a community.
Okay. And how big is your team?
Sorry?
How big is your team?
I have currently 15 people in 4 countries. And these people are they're working with company connections, selling this concept to the companies. I have 2 research and academic institutes who are preparing the research publication trail for 3 years. What we are really trying to do in academic sense is to create proof of concept academic proof. So given this technology, applied in a certain way in this field of business, the results will be this and that.
So you're not starting a company that will operate this?
No.
But will that be available to others then to do?
Well, the funny thing, and one of the unique things about my project is that we are not trying to create a product. This will never be for sale or as in service that you can pay for. We are never going to enter the commercial market as a solution with this. At the end of the project, 2019, we're going to publish every bit of code we develop, all our research, and all our experiences and conclusions as open source. This is to ensure that we get the network effect utilized in full. If I was to form a company and enter commercial market, I would have to fight for years to get any meaningful market share, i.e. members to the blockchain. I could maybe hope 20% of the players in logistics would come to my solution. That's not nearly enough for the network effect to start kicking in. But if I open source this, if I'm lucky, I can expect 60 to 80%. So what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to create a standard solution for information sharing.
But what kind of open source license? Because very often open source doesn't really prevent you to make money with it and to run with it.
At the moment, I'm looking at Apache 2.0, which enables commercial operations quite nicely.
Okay, very cool. So tell us the date so we write it down on our calendars and can be the first to market.
I think the release day will be sometime end of June in 2019.
So if you guys are looking for a business idea you want to start and everything is already done for you, mark that date and check the website of when you can do it. Okay, do we have any more questions in the audience? Yeah, there's one in the corner there.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for interesting presentation. And I have a question do you concept include all types of shipments, including land, sea, and flying shipment, yeah?
Yes. At the moment, our resolution is on intermodal container level. So this big metal box you stuff with goods. We chose containers as our point of resolution because they are a universal thing. They are used in a standard way all around the world. And there are only some 20 million of them in circulation at any given moment. If we were to go in a tighter resolution, pallet or even individual package level, the complexity would be too much. So containers at the moment in sea, rail or road are our focus. I'm counting air freight out. That's a special case, so not really applicable to this.
And is it going to involve sort of a physical attachment to the container? How are you going to bring the physical world into the blockchain?
Yeah, I'm going to use in the project some like physical tracking devices, but only to validate my data, which comes from the company databases.
I think there's a Finnish startup doing those.
There
devices.
is.
They're very good.
I believe I've done business with them already.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the IoT aspect in terms of tracking devices, I'm going to use whatever is out there already. Handheld scanners, active and passive RFID tags, optical recognition, anything goes. I'm not going to put it out there. I'm just going to use what is already out there. So I'm really just trying to connect the dots. I'm not trying to create the dots.
Okay. Do we have any more questions from the audience? I have one more. I mean, I really like the example that it's really in the physical world. It's really out there. In your experience, have you seen other examples of someone thinking outside the box the way you are?
I would really love to say yes and tell you 2-3 examples, but you jumped me with that question. I'm sorry, I froze. They
No worries.
probably are.
Okay. All right. I think if there's no more questions, last chance. Oh, okay. There's one at the back there. Two hands. Must be a very good question then. There's a microphone. Oh, so it was just the hands without the question. You really wanted the attention, didn't you? For the photo for Mika.
Yeah.
You want to do a selfie?
Yeah. Well, actually, I did, but let's do a double.
Let's do a
selfie.
selfie together, guys. I want a selfie too. Two Finnish. Well, I'm not a Finn, but close enough. Smile, wave. Wait, I wanna get you in there as well. Is that how you guys smile and wave?
Doesn't really work with that.
Nice. All right. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
very much.
Thanks.
Don't go too far away. Let's give a warm round of applause.